Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for FourCast is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This episode of FourCast is brought to you by MailRoute.info. MailRoute is a secure hosted service that provides enterprise-grade virus and spam filtering to companies of any size. Try it right now, absolutely free, at MailRoute.info.
What sort of future do you think we're heading for? How will we live as we slip into the 21st century?
Welcome to FourCast, episode 62. I'm Tom Merritt.
And I'm Scott Johnson.
And this is the show where each week we invite some guests on to make their best forecasts about the future. Happy New Year, Scott.
Happy New Year to you, Tom. It's 2011. And I made this clear on a couple of other shows. It's very important that we refer to this year as 2011, not 2011, not 11, not 20-11. It's 2011.
Well, I'm
thrilled to be here.
I'm not sure that everyone agrees with you. Let's get the opinion of our guests. We'll start with Andy Beach, Chief Evangelist from Sewell Networks, one of the smartest guys I know about video codecs. Welcome, Andy.
Hi, how you doing, Tom?
Do you abide by this 2011?
Totally on the 2011 train, so I'm with Scott on this one. I hated the 20-aught stuff. I've been waiting for I wanted 2010 to come around, if nothing else, just so that we could stop calling it 2000 and whatever. So
excellent. Also joining us, independently wealthy funny man and two-time TBA playoff participant Nick Kanel. Nick, do you go by
Tom, how are you?
Do you go by the 2011 rule?
Sadly, have not switched over from Roman numerals.
Takes a while.
So it's MMXI from me, buddy.
It must have been a big relief when we hit 2000 for you.
Couple M's. 2000.
Tastiest year ever. All right, let's take a prediction from our listeners. You can send your emails to fourcastpodcast@gmail.com. Nathan writes, Tom and Scott, I was thinking about the perception of time and how quickly a year seemed to go by now when I am 27, and I just can't imagine what a year will seem like in the future with people living beyond 200 years. My prediction is that to compensate for this effect, humanity will change the definition of what a year is, so that when we have doubled the human lifespan by current conditions, we will in turn change the definition of a year to mean 2 cycles around the sun. That way, someone who is 70 years old by the new standard will perceive their year the same way a 70-year-old today perceives it. I hope that makes some sense.
Whoa. I'm not really sure what to make of this, although I'll commiserate with them and to say that, okay, enjoy 27 because it's going to get worse. It seems to go faster the older you get. And I was just remarking the other day that 2010 was a flash in the pan. I honestly hardly remember any of it. And the fact that we're already, nearly done with the first week in January is weirdness to me. The problem is, my understanding is, anyway, from my mom, is that as you get older, you get into that 70-year-old range, it starts to slow down again. So the perception of time isn't constant and only going to speed up the older you get. So it's not like 90-year-olds are blinking an eye and 2 months are over with. I think things really dramatically slow down, and there's lots of factors. And I've heard and read some cool things about why we perceive time differently as we get older, and some of it deals with how busy we are and what we're actually doing at that stage in our life. But in the end, I think that there's not much you can do about perception because everyone's is different. Your perception at 27 was different than my perception. I'd love to get our guest take on this though, because time is a fickle mistress.
Yeah, the idea that the amount of how fast time goes by is dependent on how much you do. Nick, you're older than I am, and you do less. Do you think that time goes slower for you?
Yeah, I've noticed this effect. Have you noticed baseball season now goes into November? Football starts in like August, and it goes to February. That the year is getting longer. And I myself am 4 times older than most people think I am.
And is that just a recent phenomenon?
Yeah, I'd say for the last 5 years or so, although times 4, to most people, it would seem to be the last 20 years.
Right. So we're talking Carter era. Or Reagan era, I guess. Andy, what do you think? Does time speed up for you just as you get busier, or just as you get older? Or I look forward to the idea of time slowing back down again.
I feel like, I lose track of time when I get super busy with projects and things going on. So I feel like I lose whole months of time during the year. Like I was literally just thinking last week and trying to think back on like what I did between now and August. And I can't remember half of it because it went by so quickly. So totally. I just...
Sorry, time was starting to go a little slower for me.
Yeah, it went away.
I was hoping that's what you were doing. That was awesome. Anyway,
All right. Well, thank you, Nathan. Anyone can send us their predictions, their thoughts to fourcastpodcast@gmail.com or post them up on our blog, fourcastpodcast.com. Time for the short-term predictions. These are things that you think will happen sooner than later, maybe in the next few years. And Andy, we'll start with you. What do you see in your short-term crystal ball?
So my short-term one was around the entertainment that we're consuming. And I think in, I don't know, like the next, probably not the next 5 years, but I think the next 10 years, we'll make a switch, and the entertainment we consume is going to be so fragmented that sort of the blogger style entertainment is going to be more popular. So rather than like the cable TV or broadcast that we watch today, it'll be individuals that we pay, sort of like independent book publishing. It'll be like that, except with video and audio, and so podcasts and other things, except it'll be primetime entertainment that we consume that way. We'll just pay individuals for it or smaller collectives for it rather than going to Comcast or whoever.
Would it still be high production value, though?
Some of it will be. I think it gets harder to maintain that production value as you fragment, but I think it's bound to fragment off. And so you'll still have these super high production things that are put out by larger production companies, or you'll see groups of productions band together. So you'll have like a lot of CG artists get together, and they'll work with actors, and they'll create these little enclaves of people that work together to create things. But it'll be less and less of these sort of bigger productions and much more of the smaller productions. And we'll just keep fragmenting that stuff out until we're not paying for big cable type things as much anymore. It's not that stuff goes away. It's just that the switch happens, and that becomes the more dominant version of it.
I think you could probably make a good argument that things like the Guild and Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog and other high-profile examples of small productions by either individuals or small groups with very little budget have been able to tackle that medium and create some of this already. What I think the key there is, or the key to that working, is knowing that your budget's low going into it. You're not aiming for, the next Star Wars sequel, thankfully. But what you're aiming for is something that's entertaining on its own level, whatever that level may be. And you have to admit, most of, at least, and this is mostly true of the first and second season of The Guild, but that show was basically a webcam and some handheld stuff and nothing fancy. Just some talented actors with some good writing, doing some good work. And it works in the context in which it is written, what it's set in. Dr. Horrible is a little higher on the production value. It's got some, some Hollywood types, quote unquote types working on it. But it's another example of working within the context of this is a web only low budget thing. The idea that would translate across mediums and get me more, content over a television set or the internet or whatever, it makes a lot of sense to me. This is actually, this is a prediction I think will not only come true, but I think probably sooner than later.
Nick, what do you think? And you've got some experience in entertainment. You teach theater. You've done improv. Would the audience go for this? Would people want to have small bits over larger pieces of material?
I think two things. One, in the future, theater will not just be reserved for ugly people, where the better-looking people go on to film. And I think this is a really good illustrator of that ugly actors will eventually have a place on camera and spread out over many miles versus just being kept to dank theaters. The second part of this is that, I think we've seen the trend where a show's popular for a year or two, but you don't discover it for 3 years after it's been on TV. So I think you're going to see a lot of a lot of smaller projects that, if they go into popularity, will either then be awarded a series or will be put into a film. So, maybe your favorite show, maybe you're a big Veronica Mars fan. That might be a film, but not for another 3 years until they've met a quota of sales and viewership for it. And I think the unions could probably work with that, of keeping someone under contract a little bit longer under low pay to continue to dabble, with the outcome being that that in the end there might be a big payoff, but it's going to have to come through little chunks and pieces.
I think, and Andy, you can speak to this because you deal with, codecs and stuff, which make our world run, but is, horribly complicated and kind of a mess sometimes. It seems like we're at the turning point for video content and therefore acting and video production in general that we were sort of at with music a couple of years ago, and now it's no big deal. We think, I've discovered a band, they've only played 4 times at this one spot, they don't tour, they've got one half of an album, but I found them, I discovered them, my friends know, we're all buying it, they can get themselves out there and put themselves in places where they can actually sell their music. We're probably just at the cusp of that same kind of revolution in film, don't you think?
Oh yeah, that's part of what's going to help this take off, is the fact that the cost of the production equipment and the ability to get content out onto the web has become such a personal thing that anybody can do it practically. And once you start getting sort of geographically sort of disparate groups crowdsourcing and working on projects together, filmmaking is going to be radically different. It is already happening, and it's just going to continue down that path more and more. And that stuff is going to keep looking higher budget and higher budget, to the point where when you look, in 10 or 15 years at some of these sort of quote unquote web videos, they're going to look exactly like the cinematic productions that we see out today.
Yeah, there's a series of fantasy being done online, and I think it's being produced on YouTube. It may not be solely on YouTube, but it's available on YouTube, and I can't remember the name of it right now. But they're cleverly shooting it and using the stuff that they've got access to, like probably a Final Cut machine and maybe some limited motion graphics, to great effect. It looks amazing. It looks like something you definitely would have seen on broadcast TV in the 1990s. If not better than that, because it's a little slicker and it's shot in high def. That's something that you could not do on your own 10, 15 years ago.
Yep. Tools are cheaper, easier to get. And I can't remember the name of that series either. We covered it on Current Geek. I wish I could find it. People deserve to watch
Quest?
that.
I think
Journey Quest, that's it.
I think that might be it. Thanks, Moo Cow, in the chat.
Yeah, because remember, I couldn't stop saying Johnny Quest, and finally we figured it out. Yeah,
yes.
Journey Quest.
That's right. Now I remember. All right, Nick, let's move it over to you for your short-term prediction, things you think will happen sooner rather than later.
Wow, that was pretty... Andy's was kind of... I told you, I'm not the smartest guy.
So you keep saying.
And then... Yeah, and then Andy comes on with like codecs and the future of entertainment. My thought was that Goober will add a second jelly into their peanut butter jelly combination. So when you get a scoop of Goober, you would get strawberry jam and grape jelly.
Are you predicting specifically strawberry?
No, there already is Tom, there is a strawberry Goober.
But you're saying there would be strawberry, that they'll bring strawberry and grape together.
Yeah, it's going to go grape, peanut butter, strawberry, peanut butter, grape, and so on, for as many Goobers as required. But in light of Andy's, I'm going to change my answer. And I'm going to go with, I think, bucking a trend in eco-friendliness. We're going to see a lot more privatization in flights. I think air is going to see a bigger revolution in the next 5 to 10 years than maybe even cars.
You know, there's this recent article I read about satellite airports, small airports that they would put down in neighborhoods. And I don't know if it would be privatized or not, but the idea is you would take these small light plane vehicles from your neighborhood, like satellite airport, to the main airport, and it would cut down the time it takes to actually get on the plane.
I think I agree. Oh, go ahead, Scott. Please, you're
No, go
much
ahead.
smarter.
I was just amazed by the statistic. Continue.
No, I was going to add that they'll probably be serving Goober peanut butter. So
I was waiting for someone to make the Goober tie-in.
No, I think satellite airports. I think what we see, and this might not be as long term as we initially thought, but smaller planes carrying fewer people, which is a less of an economic output for a small airline. That maybe only serves executives, or maybe only serves in a way we know charters today. I think that at some point soon you're going to see those, and possibly even those being partially drone-driven, flown, so that you get to a point where all the hoopla of flying and the security and then it's up to you and whoever's flying the plane, and it's out of the government's hands. It's out of the hassle. It's out of spending $500 to get across the country. You're spending the same amount, but you're doing it on your own terms.
I wonder, is the FAA the one? They're not involved in the TSA security guidelines, are they? Or are they? That's my main question, because if we're going to have privatized air flights that get around security requirements because it's just you, and I guess anybody you fall down and crash on involved, the FAA would have to still allow you to fly for that to happen.
Well, even personally, right? Right? Even if you had your own little personal flying pod, you'd still have to have some kind of oversight. You would, at least I would think. And maybe what you're saying is, no, we need, like, what do we have for cars? Well, we have a traffic light system and we have cops to bust us. Maybe that's all we need. What do you think, Nick? Do you think that's all we need?
Yes. The first point being, we all know that the FAA they're the whores of the Goober Foundation. The second thing is, I agree, Scott. I think that on some level we're going to have an accessible person-to-person short-term flight. Whatever they're trying with high-speed rails that doesn't seem to get off the ground, they're going to go and maybe do something along those lines with flight, wherein people just get their choice a little bit more. That was my cat knocking over.
Trying to take flight. That's the laptop you're on. I see. It's no wonder you're pixelated a little. Andy, what do you think of this idea of personalized flight? Would you like it, or do you, as Colleen in the chat room says, see it as a great way to die?
Well, I like the idea of. First of all, I like the idea of Nick's cat's laptop as a form of communication. I totally agree that the transportation is going to change. I think high-speed rail is probably more likely to take off for commuter type stuff than the planes. I think the FAA and the TSA, I don't know if they're one organization or not, but I think they're going to, in the U.S. anyway, they're going to keep the hammer down on things and make it impossible to push that forward in the next 10 or 15 years. Beyond that, I'm sure it could change, but I don't know. I think I see ground-based stuff being the first to try to alleviate it. But I'd love to see it take off, as someone who's been groped at the airport now probably half a dozen times in the last 4 or 5 months.
In the security line?
Oh yeah, I don't know what it is about the way I tuck my shirt in or something, but even when I go through that new scanner, I still get the extra pat down for some reason. So I've just given up. I'm used to it.
Fine-looking man, Andy.
I'd say it was the beard, but I don't know.
Well, we've got 4 beards on this podcast. I haven't been groped yet, but I haven't been flying a lot since the groping really caught on. How about you guys?
I haven't flown since the groping caught on, but I think the beards have a lot to do with everything. Tom, let's just get cut to the chase. Beards are behind everything that matters.
My future prediction about the beard craze is that in the very near future, you will be going into a barber shop and you will be given 2 choices: the Hagar the Horrible or the Chester Arthur. If you choose the Chester Arthur, you'll be called a dandy.
And if you choose the Hagar the Horrible?
Would that be more
You'll
of a
be shown
scofflaw?
to right.
All right. Let's move on to our long-term predictions. These are our longer views, more of the in 100 years we'll have flying cars sorts of predictions, although we just had the flying car prediction for the short term. So, Nick, what do you got for us for the long-term prediction now that you've spent your flying car card?
I know. Well, my initial idea was going to be that Seth Rogen will finally get a Friars Club honorarium, honors all over the place. And it will initially have been mistakenly given to Joe Rogan. But then during Seth Rogen's acceptance speech, his performance will be so quirky and natural that it actually won't stick to the camera and nobody will be able to see it. But I threw that idea away.
Oh, too bad.
Yeah. And I went with technology and the bloated education system at the university level.
All right. And as a university instructor, you have a front row seat for this.
I have a seat. Okay, here's the thing. Currently, what we will regard now as we'll begin to regard as the endowment universities, the universities that can exist without tuition, will become actually super elite universities, willing to destroy and tear a man apart as needed. But that other universities, in an effort to keep up with escalating tuition, I mean, you're at a private university, you're at anywhere between $50,000 to $65,000 a year for 1 year's tuition, and the state schools aren't far behind. That the state schools will have to match this not only with the what do they call that, this stuff that we're doing now, the technology learning stuff, but you'll be able to pick and choose. So maybe you would do a year at Indiana or a year at a community college, and then you will do your 3 years at North Carolina State. But Indiana would be the hub of, journalism, technology journalism, or Illinois will be the center of a certain type of engineering, but you'll finish up at Texas to do the other 3 years. And those universities will have to adapt through options.
So it's like sort of a distributed computing model for education. You just go wherever the best teachers are for your classes?
Yeah, I'm going to have to look up what you said, and my computer's running a little slow. So after I Google that, probably.
I love this idea. Yeah. This idea that so what do you think about the idea that you don't need to physically go, though? Like universities will become to continue Tom's analogy, they become a true server farm of education. They become a place that you can tap into depending on your needs and what you're trying to do. And your educational pursuits are no longer tied to one specific sets of majors or minors or one university or even a transfer to a second university or grad school. It's more of like this I don't know, this path you take, and you make a turn here at Brown to take their course in whatever, and the very next semester you're at UC Berkeley taking another course for whatever. I really like that idea. In fact, it feels like a paradigm shift would have to occur and what we think about college and what we think about education. But the idea that you could spread yourself around and get the best educational possibilities piecemeal, kind of like going to a buffet and picking what you want. I really like that idea. That's great.
I've written in my blog, Bloggerton's big old blogosphere, that the least important years to a university are the 4 years that you're in the university. A university cares a great deal about your SAT scores and your ACT scores and where you went to high school. Then they get you. You spend 4 years there that don't add to their U.S. News and World Report numbers. Then you graduate, and they're very concerned about your per-person university donations and what level of graduate school or beyond you've gone to. So really, the 4 years of college to a university are relatively silly. So with that in mind, maybe still having a home university, but that university not using its state resources to focus on a field they're too far behind in. I just think that while the endowment universities will be able to concentrate on theory and concentrate on, you'll see a little rift between the publicly funded and the privately overfunded. And I think one of the ways this can be fixed is for the public universities to share resources. So you still want to. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
No. I was just going to say, so if you go to Stanford or Harvard, you're going to have expert professors in every college that they have. But if you go to the University of Illinois, they may say, well, we've dropped the English department because we just, we couldn't afford to hire the good English teachers. You want an English course, you're going to have to go to the University of Iowa for that. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Quite a bit. Maybe you do a year in a certain type of engineering at Arkansas, and then do your 3 years at your home university, because the idea of the University of Colorado adding a certain type of engineering is cost ineffective, and the taxpayers won't put up with more administrative bloat. It'll be the job of these mid-size and state universities to decide what level they want to compete on with the elites. On the other hand,
you need the flying cars for this to work, though.
Again, a Goober-powered university could feed the minds of thousands.
Yeah. Tom's analogy holds, I think, though. This distributed computing model holds. I mean, even the examples you're saying, well, it's too expensive now for the school to do this thing, and the taxpayers don't want to subsidize it, and whatever. But there's another community with a college that does that really well, and you've already got the things out of them you needed, but they have more quote unquote bandwidth for the stuff you want to do. It's a perfect scenario. The only issue here is we would have like football team issues, and you have your whole like school pride crap and all that to deal with.
Yeah, you got all the linebackers in one school, and then how you field a team.
Right.
Answer that one, Kanel. Oh, his Skype froze. I thought he was just being coy.
I thought he was making time last longer.
While we get him unfrozen, bringing the heaters there. It's kind of cold in Chicago. Andy, what do you think of this idea of distributed university? I think there's something to it for sure. The idea of resource sharing. It already happens in small amounts, right?
Right. It's right. Again, I love this idea, and it is something that's already happening, but I like the idea of the leap being made to making an official part where you just sort of outsource an entire part of it. Like a bunch of people that are watching this, I feel like most of what I do in my daytime job, I didn't learn in college. There was no information about it. And if I could have gotten a class credit in some way for learning that information somewhere else, I would have jumped on that in a heartbeat. So I love it.
All right, let's move on to your long-term prediction, Andy. Again, the sort of distant horizon in the timeline. What do you think?
Okay, so mine, for this one, I thought about it, and I wanted it to be something super techy and something I barely probably had any right to speak about, but I figured I'd throw it in there. My sort of 100-year or long-term prediction is that current IP routing will be replaced by some sort of modern technology or some sort of future technology like quantum networking or subspace technology that makes all communications over it virtually instantaneous.
Ooh, subspace network.
Yeah.
Wow. Will this solve the whole IPv4, IPv6?
Totally. Issue? All that stuff goes away because, in effect, computers they're not necessarily networked per se. It's just that, like, with this, if it knew the location of another item, it would just inherently be able to communicate with it. And you're not worried about actually trying to, like, physically connect them in some way. Wi-Fi goes away, Bluetooth goes away, all of that need for cables and other sort of routing goes away because everything sort of inherently understands where it is in the universe and therefore can communicate with it instantly.
So even if it moves, So okay. So this reminds I'm talking about stuff I barely understand, so I probably should look it up on Google like Nick. But
Don't worry, so am I.
but the idea kind of like almost like what we do with GPS now, except far more accurately and far more self-knowingly, right? Like the idea that everything kind of knows where it is, and if I take this MacBook and I'm with it here right now, but in 20 minutes I take it in that room, somehow it's going to know exactly where it is, how it's moved, all in real time, perfectly accurate to the quantum level. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, so like there's this whole notion in quantum networking or quantum mechanics about an object being able to exist in two places at once, quantum twins or something like that, and being able to use that as like a tunnel of communicating, and being able to use that as the way that items connect across to each other, I think would be amazing, because then like object distance, like lag, all of this Skype lag type stuff, that all goes away, and it's basically instant communication anywhere. Forget the world. It makes it possible for communication to Mars or beyond or anything else that we want.
Does that give us infinite bandwidth?
Boy, I hope so.
I hope so too. All right, let's take a quick break. We're still trying to get Nick back online, but I want to thank our sponsor, MailRoute. Businesses of every size use MailRoute. Doesn't matter if you've got one user or 50,000 users, they will protect you from spam and viruses. That probably sounds like a good thing to most people out there. If you want spam and viruses, I think you're in the minority. I think most people don't want that. MailRoute filters viruses and spam from you. Customers see a 95% reduction in their inbound email volume. And that doesn't mean you don't get the good stuff. It means all that crap that's usually coming in, and some of it might make it into a junk mail folder, but you're constantly deleting something, or even if you use Gmail, you're reporting something as spam. MailRoute makes that problem go away. I use it on my Subrilliant.com email address that I haven't been able to use since 2001. They took away an incredibly large amount of spam. No false positives. They do keep it in a junk box if you want to go and take a look at it and poke through it, but I haven't found anything in there yet. And only the good stuff gets through. I've had one email come through that I couldn't quite tell if it was spam because I wasn't so sure that I hadn't signed up for the service at some point way back a long time ago. So if I couldn't tell, I can't. MailRoute's not going to be able to tell either. Tom Johnson created FrontBridge, which is still used in Microsoft Exchange hosted services. There's nothing easier for mail filtering than MailRoute. There's no hardware or software to install. You sign up with MailRoute. You change the MX records for your domain to start your mail flowing through them. So if you know what an MX record is, that's easy. If not, it's really not that hard to change on your registrar. And then MailRoute does all the actual work for you. Visit mailroute.info to learn more. Sign up. As a Twit listener, you'll receive a 10% discount for the life of your account. You can try it for free for a small period of time. Small business accounts start at $2 per user per month for 10 users. Because of demand from y'all out there in the audience, MailRoute has added a new service for individual users as well. Less than $30 per user per year for single users. Visit mailroute.info and sign up with the email service that I use. Leo uses it too. Leo Laporte uses it. Stop all that spam. All right, it's time for the crazy-ass prediction, and Andy, we'll stick with you. One really out there forecast, your craziest prediction. What do you got?
I dedicate to Colleen, who I know is sitting in the audience watching live. I think Google will become our first virtual country.
Now, will this involve a secession of some sort?
Yeah, I think they'll have to pull back any of their official U.S. stuff, and they'll have to be made some sort of sovereign state as part of that. But at that point, your identity within their bounds will effectively be non-U.S. based and can be some sort of digital passport you have to the world. And at that point, you'll probably be able to hopefully or maybe give up your regular country affiliations and live in a virtual country, and they're going to be the first one to figure it out and do it.
Will this include virtual representation at the UN and participation in the world kind of stage? How does that go?
Yeah, they're going to have to get some recognition as from other countries, and it won't be the U.S. or somebody that leans into that first, but yeah, UN might give them some credibility or whatever takes over for the UN in the future, the future league.
Wow.
So yeah, that's
will there be rival countries?
They'll start.
I mean, Google will be the first, but will there be others follow? Will we see the nation of Facebook?
Absolutely, and Facebook would probably be the next one to follow. And of course they're going to have problems with privacy all over the place. They're going to keep hanging out all their dirty laundry for everyone. So you'll probably see a lot of virtual communities sort of rise and collapse. But they'll put the stake in the ground, and they'll be the first ones to offer it out there in some way. And it'll be the first time that you can have a virtual status that is on par with being with your identity for being a citizen of some country in the world.
Wow. So I can have multiple citizenships in both physical and virtual countries.
Yep.
Yeah, so Tom, the Warcrafters Union, or however they're going to call themselves, we could be part of that.
Sure. I could have a Blizzard. Well, I think there's going to be an issue with multiple identities. People are going to want to have one identity. So you may see you have to either be able to emigrate or get a visa to play Warcraft, because you know what, I've got my Google ID and I just don't want to have a bunch of IDs, so I'm going to log into Blizzard with my Google ID, but I'm not actually a citizen of the. Would you be able to use the services as a non-citizen? I guess that's what I'm wondering.
I think there would probably be some sort of like subset of ability to visit in short term, or you would have to be guested in by someone who belonged to that community. So I totally see it probably coming down that way. And then you could have all-out virtual wars where you're simply, there may be a day where Facebook simply doesn't allow anybody from Google World into their property.
Wow, I love this prediction. I think there's a book in this, to be honest. There's a story to be written about the big services and the sites and the things that we use now as nations, and what would their political stances be. I think that would be really fun to explore. What does Facebook look like compared to, say, MySpace? Are they very anarchistic? Are they pissed off and losing money? Are they, how would you tell a story of these nations and how they interact with each other? What would the YouTube nation look like? And how would that be with the fact that that's essentially a nation owned by the Google nation? And, there's some fun to be had there, I think. We're maybe giving our cool ideas away and sort of run away with this. But
then there's the
Wikipedia
Wikipedia
someone
nation.
writes that book because I would like to read it.
The Wikipedia nation is always borrowing money.
Yeah, Wikipedia's always got a picture of what's his name staring down, asking for money.
It's like a freaking Stalin up there, just luring. I'm glad they got the money. We don't have. It's getting worse than public radio during the drives. In all seriousness, though, I mean, Google is acting like a country in certain ways in their dealings with China and other things. So it's not that far out of the realm of possibility.
I totally think it could happen. It's sort of going that way already, but to actually have a company or a country actually sort of start granting them rights as if they were a sovereign nation, that's where it becomes a much bigger deal and something that's much more real.
But somebody owns the pipes. So Google's got to own a lot of fiber, which they do.
Right.
But other countries would have to as well. And then whoever owns the land that fiber's running through is going to have some sort of leverage, right?
Not if we had some sort of quantum-based networking that allows you to connect to things directly without needing the pipes.
I think you might run up against the Goober grape.
Our practical predictions often inform our crazy ass ones. I think that's a good example of that working.
All right. Well, we're still trying to get to Nick on board. Sadly, we haven't been able to dial him back. We're just trying over and over there. So the crazy prediction is that Nick will never get his internet connection back.
Not that crazy.
It's not a prediction. It is a prediction. He'll get it back. He's actually there. It's just we can't keep a connection with him for some reason. I don't know. I think probably Goober Grape got upset.
Maybe.
Denial of service.
You know what?
attack.
Honestly, not to keep going back to that, because I do think it's a rich well of information we can keep going back to for weeks if we want. But the Goober topic, I didn't know that existed still. I knew that stuff was around when I was a kid, but I didn't know you could still even buy it. I haven't seen it in decades.
No, it's diversified too. I'm always excited. You don't see it everywhere. It is.
Right.
It is a select. Is only in select stores.
Okay. It surprises me. It's like one of those products you're just sure is gone by now. Nope.
It's
Goober's
owned
still
by
on the shelf.
Smuckers, and with a name like Smuckers.
Well, that has to be good.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but yeah, they only have strawberry and grape. They haven't ventured. Oh wait, there's a chocolate flavored Goober PB&J. I have not.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome.
Yeah. All right. So, in the absence of Nick being able to speak to us, given the fact that you guys have known him now for about 38 minutes or so, what do you think Nick's crazy ass prediction would be?
Well, first it would be something funny that he dismisses, and then
With some very erudite references to pop culture.
Exactly. And then the real one, gosh, that's tough. I'm not sure. Probably something involving maybe your fantasy league, since that's some of the bit of information that I have about him.
Sure.
Maybe it's about fantasy leagues taking over real sports.
I predict, Tom, that he would say something about because he's in improv, right? And he seems adept at it. I think that he would probably foresee a future where politicians would be required by some sort of international law. We all went to Sweden and voted and just said this was a good idea, where all speeches have to be improvisational. Because that sounds like a lot of fun to me. This idea that, if Obama
No
addresses
more
the
prepared
UN,
speeches.
yeah, just get up and wing it. And let the chips fall where they may. Make your mistakes. Level that playing field. You can't. This will never happen. Therefore, crazy ass. But it's like Goober and chocolate a little bit. Some things, weirder things have happened. Is all I'm saying. Right?
I have known Nick for roughly 21 years. So I'm going to say that, I think Andy's entirely right on the first half of the prediction. The second half of the prediction would be something a little more serious, though. It would be something involving an observation about maybe not politics per se, but the makeup of our society, and perhaps the reception of theater and the ultimate victory of ugliness becoming the new prettiness, and therefore very ugly people would start to be hated because of the way they look, and they would be prejudiced against, but they would get all of the advantages. They'd get all the nicest tables at restaurants. Ugly people would get better jobs. They'd be paid more, and beautiful people would start to really hate them, and there'd be lots of cosmetics to help you try to mask your beauty. Wow.
I think that we don't. Who needs Nick when we have three really good predictions in his place? Can I just give you a little more information about the Goober brand, because I'm really into this right now? Just a tiny bit
absolutely.
while we still attempt to see if we can get him.
We're continually trying to reconnect with Nick, but go ahead.
All right. At least one store brand variant of Goober is available. It's sold by Kroger under the name Ralph's brand, and it is sold as Yipes Stripes. 2 words, explanation points at the end of each exclamation.
So you go to a Ralph's, and instead of Goober Grape, you can buy Yipes Stripes.
Yipes Stripes. So
is it grape?
It's grape, strawberry, or other flavored preserves. It doesn't get real specific, but it basically, I love the description. It consists of alternating vertical stripes of peanut butter and either grape, strawberry, or flavored preserves.
Or flavored preserves. I want to know what the other flavors are.
Preserved flavors is more accurate.
I used to live near a Ralph's, but we moved. So I'm going to have to dig up the nearest Ralph's. I don't know where that is.
1968 by the J.M. Smucker Company.
The name like Smuckers. It has to be time for 4 questions.
Yeah. Awesome. Since we don't have Nick here, you want to alternate questions? That'd be kind of fun.
Well, no, you go ahead and ask Andy the questions.
right.
And if by some miracle we reconnect with him, I'll ask him his questions. If not, I will ask you all Nick's questions.
Perfect. Andy, I'm going to ask you your 4 questions. Are you sitting comfortably?
I am.
Awesome. Hold on to your video codex. Here it comes.
Oh.
If the future of mankind depends on one single technology to save it from utter destruction, what will that technology be?
Probably the thing that puts the alternating stripes of jelly and peanut butter into the jar of Goober's peanut butter.
You know, I just realized every question I'm about to ask you, you could answer with a Goober answer.
That's what I'm hoping.
Feel free to do whatever you like. Next question, what foodstuff will become the most common thing we eat in 1,000 years?
A nice grilled cheese sandwich. But after that, you'll have Goober peanut butter for dessert.
All right, good. Ugh, that sounds so bad.
At least they weren't together.
Yes. When California finally falls into the ocean, no offense, California, where will everyone flee to?
How was I going to answer that with Goober peanut butter? Just out of curiosity. I'm just wondering.
Well, we could come up with something. I don't know what. I mean, maybe they're the brand that reaches out and finally, the government sucks at it. The government will fail.
So once California is gone, everybody's. I guess the Midwest becomes the new West somewhere in there. I know you would probably love them all to head to Utah and join you in Nerdtacular, but
Sure.
But I don't know. Maybe Arizona. I'll say Arizona.
All right, fair enough. Arizona. I like that
It's
answer.
warmer.
And finally,
it's just slightly warmer.
Yes, it is. Here's your final question. Will Ringo be the final Beatle? The last Beatle alive? Will he outlast?
Last Beatle standing.
There's
Last
only
Beatle
2
standing.
left, so last Beatle standing. Will it be Ringo or will it be Paul? Which will it be?
Now, Paul's well preserved, and that the vegans, they're tricky. They could go a long time on you, but I think just for pure comedy's sake, it will absolutely be Ringo and cockroaches at the end of all time.
What about Pete Best?
Awesome.
Still alive.
Yeah. Still kicking. 5th Beatle. Yeah, Ringo's awesome. So I'm hoping he makes it. And besides, the correct answer is Ringo because, as we know, at least from what I heard when I was a junior high student, Paul was dead and has been for a very long time.
Well, yeah, that's why he's barefoot on the Abbey Road cover.
Yeah, I mean, duh. He's barefoot.
Seriously.
Duh.
Yeah.
He's dead. Yeah.
Yeah, Stuart Sutcliffe was the first Beatle to die, by the way.
Whoa.
Pete Best will be the last. That's my prediction is that the weird Hamburg silver Beatles makeup will be essential to the bookending of the actual popular Fab Four that we are aware of in most people's cases.
Interesting.
Stu Sutcliffe, Pete Best, Paul McCartney, John Lennon, and George Harrison were the Quarrymen, the Silver Beatles, and the Beatles that played in Hamburg. And then Stu Sutcliffe died, then, and Pete Best is still alive.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Ringo wins it all. You watch. The worst Beatle will be the last Beatle.
We're going to push the button one last time on the Nickometer to see. I'm really sad that we couldn't get it back at all. That's
he's been one of my favorite guests, and he was
really
cut off too short.
All right, well, here we go. Feel free to just jump in with an answer, either one of you, as soon as you think of one. These are the questions I would have asked Nick were he with us today. I'm sure he's sitting comfortably
somewhere with George Harrison.
Question 1. There are 2 men in a boat. What did the third man say to the second man?
Got any goobers?
Correct answer is, what am I doing here? It's 2 men in the boat.
I wonder. No, he's got a handful of goobers, and he says, "I wonder if I can catch fish with this."
Question number 2. Why are robots so misunderstood?
Ooh. Nothing to do with peanut butter. Probably something to do more with oh God. Now, see, I've lost the ability to be funny because I'm thinking about it. The problem with the 4 questions is the overthinking. I didn't think I would overthink it. Totally overthinking it.
That's one of the rules. You can't
I know.
think it. Yet,
I know.
yet here we are. Yeah.
Scott, why are robots so misunderstood?
I think it's because because you and I didn't build them, and the only people that understand them are the crazy people who do. That's why. There will always be an inherent misunderstanding until we build our own robot.
All right, question number 3. They get progressively more important for Nick to be here to answer.
Sure.
But here we go. Question number 3. When will Tina Fey win her first Oscar?
When she writes a hit movie, she's the writer in the movie, and it's incredibly popular, and she wins a screenwriting award. She'll never win as an actor. I noticed you didn't specify, because I don't think she'll ever act her way to an Oscar, but I think she can write her way to one.
Oh, right, and very interesting. Good answer.
Yeah.
And finally, Nick, the last question. When will the Chicago Cubs win the World Series?
Probably next year. No.
Hey, this isn't crazy-ass predictions.
I don't even think Nick would say
I know.
that.
Sorry, I was just. I think baseball will come to an end before they end. I'm
Wow.
sorry.
Very sad.
Yeah.
Okay, Nick, can you hear us?
I've been talking straight through.
Okay, good. Thanks for your answers were great.
Good job.
So to summarize, I think adding a marmalade into 2 other jellies is a huge mistake.
Well, yes and no. Did you want to tell us really quickly your crazy ass prediction?
Wow. All right. Let's get ready for this one. Landfills, once thought to destroy the earth and hated by millions, will in the future be hated by billions and actually destroy the earth.
That was a little far off from what we predicted, you would say.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Yeah, way off. Way off.
No, I actually had a different thing. Don't worry. I have 2 for every one of your questions.
We did predict that correctly, Andy Beach.
All right. Whew. Vindicated.
I'm sure at some point somebody has mentioned that we'll all have chips in our brains deciding where we should eat. And
Previous
stuff like
shows, definitely, yeah.
that. And has anybody made the prediction that most people will have them removed 50 seconds after putting them in, after the first Java update pop-up comes on?
No, I don't think we've had that.
Yeah.
Or the realization that the Yahoo toolbar was also installed to your brain.
Just get the whole damn thing out of there. I just wanted the chip to tell me whether I should go to Wendy's or McDonald's. I didn't want this other thing.
That is much better than any of us could have imagined your crazy ass prediction would be.
Yeah, you could have combined ours and it still didn't hold up.
No, definitely. I don't know if you heard. Were you able to hear us when we were pretending to be you?
No, I was watching Access Hollywood.
Sure.
So what was going on? You obviously had a lot of faith in my first few predictions if you thought the Java pop-up bit was the superior idea.
Well, my prediction was that that you would say ugly people would become the new pretty people, and that there would be a new line of cosmetics to help pretty people look more ugly, but pretty people would hate ugly people because of all the advantages.
Wow. That is, maybe high school Nick would have said that.
Scott, what was yours?
I'm trying to remember now. That in the future, world leaders would be required to improv their speeches and their addressing of like the UN and stuff. They would have to get up and improv everything, no preparation, and that it would create a level playing field in the world of politics.
Could we rename this segment as the Predictions?
Yes, I think we just have.
Predictions for 2011.
And Andy, what was your prediction?
Well, mine was pretty much that he would have 2, so that's already come true. And then I believe I went on to have something along the lines that fantasy league sports would in fact be more popular than actual sports.
I'm with you.
Yeah. You get behind that one? All right. It is time for 4 questions then. I'm going to re-ask you the 4 questions, and we'll see how you do compared to the 4 questions purported responses that we made. These are rapid fire, though, right? Don't stop and think. Just answer. Question number 1. There are 2 men in a boat. What did the third man say to the second man?
Thanks for inviting me.
No, the correct answer is, what am I doing here? Question number 2. Why are robots so misunderstood?
Because that people keep putting refrigerator magnets on them.
Correct. Question number 3. When will Tina Fey win her first Oscar?
In her mind, 1997.
And question number 4. When will the Chicago Cubs win the World Series?
There's no time limit on this. We're enjoying the ride. You know, what are we going to do? Be St. Louis Cardinals fans and hate ourselves?
No, you can be St. Louis Cardinals fans and relish your victories or enjoy winning.
Yeah, if you don't mind bouncing a ball off a turf in the 1980s. But we play baseball here in Chicago, Tom. And 100 years to us in the big picture is like a day at the – every day's a day at the park.
Andy was saying that baseball might end first.
Sorry about that, Nick.
Oh, don't be sorry. I'll say it. Do you think that's possible?
I think the Cubs experience, what we like, the Cubdom that we like to have, would be fine if we're going to keep playing. Whether a league or somebody wants to support that, or they want to incorporate us into something else,
or if people want to call it playing.
I have given them the World Series of my heart.
Really? That's what you got?
Hey, don't laugh. It took 4 cardiovascular men to get that aorta removed and handed over to the Cubs.
All right.
I have palpitations every 7 minutes.
Did they sign for that?
Signed? Yeah, they signed. Yeah, it was part of their contract. The new starting pitcher is angina.
You're giving me a heart attack with these answers. All right. Well, I'm glad we got you back, even if it's just for audio. The audio listeners are like, what's the problem? He's right there. So thank you all very much for being on the show. Andy Beach, let folks know where they can find more about you online.
Best place is follow me on Twitter at Andy Beach, and you can find out about everything I do there, what cocktails I'm drinking, what food I'm eating, and occasionally I even get a little work done in the video world.
That's awesome, and thank you for all your help and support with the inestimable amount of knowledge that you know.
Oh, I'm always happy to chime in.
And Nick Kanel, independently wealthy funny man, owner of the Central Chicago Black Flames of Chicago, 2-time TBA playoff participants. Thank you for being on the show, and let people know your home address.
Yeah, I'm at Paulina and Lawrence. You would find me on the internet by taking a cab to Ashland and then taking a left on Winona.
All right.
And I'm right there on the next corner.
Fantastic. Scott Johnson, anything else we need to take care of before we butt out of here?
Well, as always, people can follow me at Extra Life on Twitter. But more importantly, I'm looking forward to your incredible Twit coverage of the Consumer Electronics Show in beautiful Las Vegas starting this week.
No, it's Las Vegas.
I can't wait for that. Just want to encourage people to make sure they're hanging around and be in the chat room and watch the video. It's going to be amazing.
We're not really in the beautiful parts of Las Vegas. We're kind of on the Strip.
There aren't very many beautiful parts to Las Vegas.
There are a few.
Let's just admit it.
Yeah, kind of out in the outskirts.
Yeah.
Don't forget to leave comments at our website, fourcastpodcast.com, or send us an email to fourcastpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks again to Andy Beach. Big thanks to Nick Kanel for persecuting us and also persevering through the technical troubles. We'll see you next time.
Bye. Oh, wait.